You may ask, so I'll tell you. Accept me an evangelist messenger and accept me of destiny is to make firm establish. So my guests and I bring you messages to establish what you need to know in the present. And also, I like working with angels and the calmness they bring. Now, in a moment, I will introduce you to my wonderful guest, Simon Pollard. But before that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching the show live at a later date, as it means a lot to me to connect with like minded women. Now, if you've never met me before, then my name is Ray, and I love to help women to crossroads in their life, heal their past, create their future, and transform their present so they can take charge of their destiny in the here and now. I'm the founder of Radiant Angel Energy, and I use angelic Reiki, future life progression, past life regression, meditation, angel cards, and hypnosis to help women who feel lost get clear on their reason for being here. I've also created several transformational packages to help you take charge of your destiny and a journey through lifetimes. Now, each episode of the show covers various themes of your journey, a mini guided meditation or angel oracle card reading, with the wisdom of my wonderful guests, like today's guest, Simon Pollard, about using our five senses to see, smell, taste, feel, and hear the essence of our world. Now, Simon has been a long-term advocate of wildlife-friendly gardens and is a knowledgeable speaker on the subject. He has extended his experience over the last few years to include guided walks, connected with talks about nature, encouraging the local community to join him outside, amongst others. He is now excited to bring the outdoors inside for everyone to enjoy. Simon spent many years in education and was a field teacher for the RSPB. He is a self-publicised author, I must get my teeth fixed, and uses the outdoors as a resource for improving his health and mental well-being. He has a vast knowledge of the countryside and the nature which surrounds us and is passionate about sharing this with a wider audience. Simon is married to Gillian and they have two little rescue dogs, Scruffy and Bruno, who enjoy walking their little legs off daily. Simon can also be seen on occasion dressed as a pirate, raising much needed funds for the Dover Rotary Club. Should be interesting to see. So, without further delay, hello, Simon, and welcome to the Angel and Destiny Show. How are you today?
I'm very well. I'm sitting here busily reading this scroll that's going across the front of the screen, and you know what? It's great. See your name. I mean, I tell you, and it keeps repeating. So if I miss bits or I'm not paying attention, it comes along again just straight afterwards. It's great, isn't it? I've not heard this before.
I know, amazing. It reminds me of who my guest is, so I can't get your name wrong.
Is that when you fell asleep?
Yeah, exactly. So before we get into this fascinating conversation, I want to remind you that not only can you ask questions and leave comments and thoughts, but you can also share this video. So please don't be shy, as both Simon and I want to be part of this conversation. So please do comment and ask questions. So Simon, why don't you tell us more about your journey and how we can see the view over the wall?
The view over the wall. Do you know, I wasn't going to call it the view over the wall. I was going to call it a buzzard day. A buzzard day is a good day, because that's entirely true. But it became the view over the wall, and I guess the journey up to the wall was quite a long one. Incidentally, I like you putting questions in there because that means I can get sidetracked. Dead easy. And I'm very good at getting sidetracked and very good at waffling. And sometimes I need questions to get me back on track because I waffle. Anyway, the view up to the view over the wall is the second book, right? And the first book was The 3-Year Pond and Other Absurdities, because face it, half of this life is absurd if you look at it the right way or maybe the wrong way. I'm usually quite good at this. I don't do ers and ums and ahs, but as you can see, I'm just all over the place. The 3-Year Pond was, if you like, the trip into a certain amount of chaos because I didn't know what I didn't know. And I think we've all had a lot of time where we didn't know what we didn't know, because if you don't know it, you don't know it. Kind of savage. So, because I didn't know what I didn't know, I managed to get myself into a huge hole, for want of a better phrase. So, the story, if you like, in the 3-Year Pond is how we started from what was a fairly nice, happy, rosy, jolling along little existence, which was dead good. And then within the fairly short space of time, I managed to lose quite a lot of money, get a bit into debt. I got taken to court, lost the case. The court thing was fun. There was one moment where the court got adjourned to the client's bedroom. So if you can imagine the scenario where we're stood in this lady's bedroom with her partner and the judge and the clerk of the court and one or two other people, and it's a great little scene. You've got to go and read the book because they wouldn't have put it in most comedy sketches on the telly, and it was ludicrous at the time. It's ludicrous the way you look at it, and some of the dialogue that went on was also kind of quite ludicrous, for want of overusing a word. But we went into there. My mother died. People have a habit of doing that, and the marriage kind of came to a natural end, albeit an unsuspected natural end. And as you can imagine, you kind of like deal with all these bits and pieces because they're an automatic part of life. That's all right. Daddy Longlegs has just gone across the front of the screen. Distracted again. But when they all kind of come at once, and I mean, the court case spun out over the best part of a year, and it starts to wear you down, starts to grind you down. And I was having issues sleeping, and I did the anxiety thing and did the bit where, you can make any minor drama into a major crisis, especially at 3 o'clock in the morning when the chimp is firmly in charge. But I'm a stubborn pain in the bottom, and I ain't going down for anybody. And so I stuck it out. And it's funny how when you get in those places, those people that are around you that are important stand up and get counted. And Gillian was one of those. And she'd been badgering me, if you like. So she, if you like, helped me take the first step back into whatever, back into some semblance of right, normality, out of the hole, back up. And I guess the first bit of the kind of spirit of the spiritual journey that I was aware of, right? The spiritual journey that I was aware of actually came out on a business course. Okay, we were talking about this earlier. I mean, not us, but I was this morning, by pure coincidence. It was a business course that was set up by a fairly well-known gentleman in the locality, basically because he wanted to do business right. There's a fair amount of spirituality involved, okay? Things like the law of attraction and planning and all the rest of that. And it all requires a little bit of blind faith, which effectively is spirituality in some contexts. But again, if you're going to do this kind of course, you can't sell it to hard-nosed business types as a spiritual course, because they'll just go, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So you follow it, you market it and sell it as a business course, but you keep pumping the spirituality in underneath. And it wasn't until we were about 10 months into it, and we were asked to read a book called this one. So there's a prop that I had earlier. This one, Asking It Is Given by Esther and Jerry Hicks, which is a brilliant book. Anyway, it was one of our required readings, right? So, and I was always a month behind with the reading. Not because I'm a slow reader. Well, maybe I am, but no, I wasn't, because I was always a month behind. If I was a slow reader, I'd have been going a month and then 6 weeks and then 2 months, right? So I was a month behind. And the fella who wasn't a month behind said, well, I did 50 pages, and what a bunch of namby-pamby, tree-huggery, hippie crap. At which point I'm like, that sounds good. So I got hold of this book and I read it. And, just reading the book was healing. Yeah, it was weird. I read the book, and whilst I'm reading this book, I'm feeling all right. Because I actually read it over a really horrible weekend. I was on my own. I didn't want to be on my own for various different reasons. And I had a lousy Friday night. I'd been ill. and it was rubbish. But every time I sat down and read this book, I felt all right. I felt okay. I felt looked after, protected, calm, whatever, however you want to pronounce, however you want to describe it. So I'm like, well, this is cool. Don't know what the hell it is. I don't know what's going on. Oh, sorry, Mozzie. We were talking about Mozzies before the show. So we were. So anyway, so I'm like, okay, there's something in this. So I don't remember quite what happened next, but it was, well, my room's full of Mozzies. I was saying, all life is sacred unless you're a mosquito. And did you know, this is obviously, this is a show for the female of the species. It's only the female mozzies that bite you. They need blood for egg production. So, and the only way to know is after you've splattered it, if it's red, it's female, right? If it's not red, then it might be a female who hasn't eaten, but it's probably a male. So anyway, so moving along swiftly, I thought there's something in this. And then I went on a book writing course. Yeah, with a lovely lady called Sharon Lynn. Some of you might have heard or know Sharon.
Yep.
White elk woman. And I had this idea for a book, and I went on this book writing course. And when I came out of the book writing course, the idea that I had for a book I knew wasn't going to work. So that was really good. But what Sharon does a fair amount of is a fair amount of meditation, because she's quite a spiritual lady. And she kept dropping us into meditations all the way through the weekend. And I came out thinking, actually, this is pretty cool. So, I bought Sharon's book and I got her CD and spent a small fortune on goodies, and came home and started doing a little bit of meditation and playing the tapes. And I'm like, kind of, well, this is all right. There's something in this. And it was weird because she had this book and it had obviously an introduction to meditation at the beginning. And then it had all these different pages with these different messages and whatever else. And what I used to do was pretty much kind of hold it up and then drop it on a table.
Yeah.
And it had a few ideas. And I thought, okay, I'll run with that one. And it was just bizarre how many times it would fall open at the very thing that you actually wanted to spend some time thinking about. Funny that, eh? And the thing that you wanted to be spend some time thinking about. And so I'd put on a couple of the tracks off the CD. And I'd sit there and this kind of works, actually. This is all right. And kind of started putting life and everything else back together again, which was pretty cool. And if you like, the 3-year pond kind of encapsulated that journey, because if you like, it's a bit kind of a bit like a cross section, But you think about it, right? You start off up there and then you go down, yeah. And then you go along a bit, and then you go back up. Yeah. And if you think about it, that's kind of like the shape of a pond, isn't it?
Yes.
It is, especially if you spend your time talking about the countryside and wildlife and all of those things that I do on a fair amount of basis. So that kind of became the book. It started off walking along Hadrian's Wall with my son, because we did the whole... No, West Highland Way. Started off on the West Highland Way, which I did with my son in 2013, I think. And we spent a fortnight with a tent, with rucksacks on our back. We carried our whole world with us. And it was because it was so simple, and it really was. You wake up, you have breakfast, you break camp, you walk. And you walk for the day, and at the end of the day, you make camp, you have dinner, and you crash. It's a really simple, lovely existence, especially when you're in the Highlands.
Yeah.
And the sun's shining. We didn't have that many black days. I mean, don't get me wrong. When the sun stops shining and it gets a bit drizzly and there's not much wind, it is a midge fest.
Yeah.
And there were 1 or 2 days where... Well, we had one morning. I mean, it's a whole other story. It's in the book. There's a whole other story, but basically, in the time it took to boil a kettle, your cups turned from grey to black. because there were that many midges. They were absolutely thick. We didn't even try and eat breakfast because you'd have had so much protein that you hadn't bargained on.
Yeah.
And so we just literally packed up and went. It was grim. When we had midge coats, we didn't just have. God, if it was in a room full of people, I'd say, "Can I have a drink of water, please?" Because I've just hang on. But it was absolutely amazing, and to spend that fortnight with my son was really, really cool. But the other beautiful thing about it is when you take social media and Wi-Fi away from teenagers, they become human beings. Yeah, it's this miraculous thing. Yeah, they turn from this what, why, when, no, to people who actually hold conversations and engage. And not only that, because you're doing your routine, you're like, oh, we need to sort out what, and you turn around, he's done it. You're like, what's up with you?
Yeah.
This ain't right. This isn't the way it works.
Is this my son?
Yeah, I know. But it's still the same now. I mean, we've done 5 walks together. And we possibly like to do some more, but he's 21 now and he's got a girlfriend and half a life. And to be fair, the last time we went was kind of like 8 days away from my wife, and we didn't want to be that.
No.
So that was kind of the view over the wall. So as it says in the beginning, that was a 3-year pond. I don't even know my own books.
I know.
Oh, it's confusing, this thing called life, isn't it? So if you like, that was a large part of that was I'm doing it again, the 3-year pond. And it says in the beginning of the view over the wall, if you like, the 3-year pond was the journey up to the wall, and the view over the wall is the view over the wall. Funnily enough. So the view over the wall is a book about connection, primarily. It's a book about energy. There's a lot of that about. And it's a book about that first kind of like stage of connection with the world, which is effectively using our 5 senses. 5 senses is the first step. There's a whole other world after the 5 senses, but the first 5 senses is maybe the first place that you start. Now, the kind of the view over the wall is so new at the moment, and the Kindle's been released, and those people who bought Kindles and did so on that first day. Incidentally, I would like to say at this point, we didn't do the standard new book tricks on Amazon, whereby you go and find such an obtuse category to put your book in that it becomes a #1 bestseller because nobody even knew that category existed, let alone ever buy a book in it. So therefore, if there's no competition, you're going to be a #1 bestseller. But anyone who's halfway through the process will know full well you're a #1 bestseller. We know what you did. What I did was we just got as many people to buy it within the 2-hour window as we possibly could, and we got in the top 2%. The top 2%. This is naturally, this is organically, this is not mucking about or changing the figures. We got in the top 2% of body, mind, and spirit. Okay. Now the fact that there's 74,000 books in that category that was pretty. Yeah, that was cool. So we were top 2%, which is, I think, better than being a #1 bestseller in, I don't know, people who grind holes in metal boxes category, because who cares? Anyway, so you did say to talk.
I did. So let's go back to the book and the 5 senses.
The book and the 5 senses. So 5 senses, I actually wrote 2 booklets last year because when I wrote them, the world wasn't about to shut down. One was the 5 senses, and that was going to be the partnership book that goes with the 5 senses walks or walk experience that we do, and the 4 keys, which is how you bring wildlife into your garden, which was kind of like we were going to base. We had a lot of speaking gigs set up last year, and that was going to be the base of those. And so therefore, those people that actually paid for the event or whatever else would get a free copy of the book. Seemed to be a good idea to me, and they didn't cost a great deal to produce, and it was something to give back. So the five senses, if we think about it, it's the five senses is the way we connect to the world. In the first instance, but we don't. Most of us don't. How many times have you been driving in a car and you've got to your destination and you suddenly realise you've driven through 3 villages and you have no memory of them at all? Automatic pilot. You know, and you sort of think, well, I hope nobody stepped out in front of me because I didn't stop. But chances are if you did, you would have done. But, you know,
yeah.
But you've been out there, you've been looking, but you haven't seen a thing.
Yeah.
You know, also, how many times, I mean, one of the things that fires us up and actually gives us things to look at or tells us where to look is listening. Yep, you go out in the countryside, you'll hear a bird song, it'll turn you around, you'll see movement, you clock the movement, and then you'll clock into the bird. So you've got listening as well. But if you look at people out and around and about, how many of them got headphones on?
Yeah.
An awful lot of them have got headphones on. And not only that, they're usually looking at a little box and they've got headphones on. So therefore, they are completely disconnected from the world. Yeah. Now you could say, oh yeah, but they can still smell it. But it's amazing. Our noses will cut smells off within about 2 minutes. Yeah, they do it automatically. And if you don't believe me, think about it, right? Now, this is perfect. You know, this is the material that all comedians use the entire time, right? You've heard. Yes, you do hear people make smells, don't you? You know, we've all done it. People fart, right? However you want to look at it, people do. Now, diffusion, which is the way that a gas expands, is pretty slow. Because if you think about it, if you remember school and you remember physics, you've got those little things called atoms and neutrons and all the rest of it. And there's millions of them. So therefore, any one of them doing anything is doing this the entire time. It's very hard for it to expand and get away. Now, so the smell doesn't go away, all right? It's your ability to receive the smell that goes away.
Gotcha.
If you think about it, you know, we put perfume on or aftershave on or whatever else to make ourselves think we smell lovely, and we smell it for about 2 minutes. And then we stop smelling it. Yeah, and it's only if you think about it, somebody comes in a room with perfume or aftershave on and you smell it. Yeah. And then you stop smelling it. And then they leave the room and they come back in again and then you smell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So smells get cut off. So, okay, I mean, even so, I mean, they can pervade, but it doesn't matter how bad they are. I mean, I knew a fella who worked for the human poo people, you know, the big piles we get out in the fields.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember his daughter saying, you know, Dad, I need a £5. He said, yeah, cool, no problem. Go clean the van. She went outside, got close to the van, and she said, I don't need a £5 that much. Because it had a bit of an aroma. But yeah, he couldn't smell it because it had cut off. So that's another one. Even when you're out there, smells are great for firing up a memory, but we cut them off really quickly. How many times have you actually been aware of what you touch? When we take people out on on our walks, we say to them, you know, you are going to have to touch trees. And you see them go, really? You don't have to hug them, just touch them, right?
That's the first step. Next step is get to them, hug them.
Absolutely. I mean, there are that many pictures of me hugging trees in various different places. As far as I'm concerned, hugging trees is cool. Not only that, because they've been there forever and they've got an energy, and you know, if you really, really concentrate, you can just about feel that pulsing heartbeat of a tree.
Yeah.
You know, it's I mean, everything out there's got a heartbeat, but anyway. But there are warm trees, and there are cold trees, and there are trees that have got smooth, almost concertina bark. You can slide down the tree and you'd be okay. But there are other trees, like a yew or an old oak. If you slid down that, you'd remove most of your skin and probably half your organs at the same time. But they're all different. It's huge. And yet you've got the bark of a pine tree. If you broke it up and broke it down a little bit, you could put it into a sleeping bag and it would keep you warm at night. And there's other trees. You go out and touch a beech tree and it's cold. You know, it's those kinds of things. But also, if you like, if when you're outside, I mean, like today in Kent, it's been gloriously sunny. You know, we're just crossing our fingers that we're going to get the Indian summer that will be much nicer than the summer, because face it, our summer has been
rubbish.
Pants. Absolutely. Um, so, but when you're out there and the sun's beating down on you, the air has a feel, it has a flavour, and it has a taste. And then when you walk into woodlands, the air changes completely. Now, if you're aware of it, it's huge.
Mm.
Absolutely huge. That temperature drops. The flavour of it drops. It becomes musty quite often. You hear different things because there's a little bit of a barrier around you. And trees do deaden sounds. So those are all just little bits and pieces that you get. And I don't know about you, but I am far, far, far more aware of my world when I'm outside.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm terrible indoors. I drift off. I get continually accused of not listening. I can't imagine how that could be. I told you that the other day. Did you? But when I'm out, I'm always looking. I've always got one ear on the countryside. Even if I'm on a conversation, I'm probably not listening because I'm listening to the woodpeckers or the trees or listening for the wind in the trees. I'm always alert, always aware of what's around me in a way that I never am when I'm in the square box that we built for ourselves. And there's an argument there. Why are we living in boxes when all of our ancestors know full well that the circle was a way better place to live in? Because not only did they build their houses as a circle, as a circular shape, but they put them together in circles. Everything was a circle because that represents the cycles.
Yeah.
And when we look around us, there are so many cycles that are going on. There's the annual cycle, there's the seasonal cycle, there's the lunar cycles that are the natural ones, not the made-up week and the made-up month that Julius Caesar's been guilty of, that we made it because we wanted our numbers to fit. But those things with absolutely mentality, yes, it is. And I was reading, and I had to get back to when I was researching the view over the wall. And this is what happens. People comes up in a chat, Simon changes direction, off we go. But two of the major sources of depression are lack of connection to our world, funny that, and lack of meaningful human contact. It's funny that too, really. Mm-hmm. But when you think about it, where did we come from? We came from a world that we were connected to because we had to be, because we were part of those cycles. We were a part of the world. We had to organise our world around those natural cycles so that we spent the summer growing stuff, hunting, storing bits and pieces, so that when we had the dark winter months, we had a food supply, we had a food source, it was put there. And because there wasn't a great deal we could do, because something like 60, 70% of our day was dark, we could live and spend our time resourcing, recharging, regenerating, taking time out, having rest, which was okay while you had to work so hard in the summer to make sure you got that harvest. But when you've got long days and it's warm and stuff's growing, you make full use of that, which is where the Celtic Wheel of the Year and everything else comes in. And you know what? It works. It makes sense. And we've lost that. We are quite probably the most disconnected generation, if not couple of generations, this world has ever seen. Yeah. And why? Because we spend our entire lives trapped in these things.
Yep.
And as we were saying earlier, half the world's out there, walking around like this with headphones strapped in, so they're completely disconnected. And that's what's the thing. Our minds might have forgotten, but our bodies haven't. And if you want proof of that, and now you're thinking it, I'm sowing the seed, I'm doing what my mentor would call putting a plop in, right? Next time you walk outside your back door, you will take automatically a deep breath of fresh air. And that is because your body remembers, even if your brain has forgotten. Yeah. And now you're going to do it now anyway, because I've just told you. And you walk out your back door and you're thinking, he told me I'll take a deep breath. And I have. But you do. Your body remembers if you only let your brain, it's not, if you let your brain relax with it, your body remembers.
Yeah.
there's absolutely no doubt about it. And when you actually it's like going back to the five senses. Are you keeping up here? We're zigzagging all over the place.
That's right. We're keeping up.
Brilliant. But the five senses, when we go out, obviously you tell people what they're going to get involved with during the day. And obviously we have a fairly full-on introduction, 20 minutes of me waffling, but you face it, you've just experienced that and you're still here, so it ain't all that bad. But when we go out and we have an activity which is designed to actually look, where is the horizon? I'm going to try and pick a place where it might be 30 yards to the right, 20 yards to the left, a metre behind you, and 3 miles in front of you. And then there'll be peaks and there'll be valleys and there'll be rises. And the fact that you change focus depending on those differences. And there's different things at different places and at different distances as you look. But actually being aware of the fact, getting right up close to a tree. Again, we keep talking about trees. If you get right up close to a tree trunk, you will see there is so much more to bark on a tree than you will ever get from even 3 meters away.
Yeah.
And if you look at, I think which one it was, but there are some trees when you get in there and you look, a pine tree, for example, they're really, really ridged. If you flip it over, you can almost imagine a kind of lunar scenario. Some of them, it looks like there's a kind of a file that chippies use. It's kind of almost scallop shaped, and it almost looks like somebody's been out there with a tree and going.
Yeah.
It would take them forever, but it looks like that. And you get in and you get close, and the whole world changes. As it says, bark has so many beautiful patterns. It has. They are amazing. But you've got to actually get out there and you've got to look. So we spend some time doing that. As we said, you've got to touch the trees. You don't have to hug them, but you do have to touch them. Now that's touch and sight. Yeah. We'll take places and we'll sit down and say, right, I want you to spend a couple of minutes. What can you hear? And it's amazing how even on a day where you can't hear anything, how much you can hear. Whether or not it's kids in a playground, whether it's a motorway in the distance or an aeroplane flying over, or a wren ticking away, or a blackbird, or whether it's just the wind in the trees. And when you stop and listen to the wind, it's whistling around in different places. And you can hear that it's doing a very different thing 10 meters above your head to what it's actually doing where you are. And again, that's not only listening, of course, you're going to get caught up with it touching your skin, and then you've got the sense of touch, and then you've got cold and you've got wind chill. But we start off with listening and we count the things that you can hear. And generally, it's rare that we have less than 10.
Yeah.
That's for people that are not used to actually stopping and listening. So we do that. We talked about the change of smell when we come in and out of a woodland, which is a really, really good one. And obviously, depending on the plants you find in the time of year, but honeysuckle. It's weird. I don't know whether it's true or not, whether we're in lockdown, it's been a massive mind job. But in the last 2 springs, I have walked the path at the back of our house that we go up. We call it Stalco. The name of the engineering works is next to it. But there's a big honeysuckle bush. And when there's been no wind, it has stopped me dead in my tracks. And you just like, wow. Absolutely like, wow. Jasmine. I had a fella out came around to see me the other day. And we went into the garden. We got a star jasmine. And that jasmine, the scent was intoxicating. It's beautiful.
I've got it in my garden.
Yeah, it is. Sense of smell. When I was a kid, I used to go and stay with my grandmother, and she lived in Canterbury, and near where the Roman painted road is, not painted road, but anyway, there was a coffee shop. It was an old-fashioned coffee shop where they used to grind up the coffee, and they had these containers of coffee in the window, wooden containers, like they were. And I hate coffee. I still hate coffee. It's disgusting stuff. I don't like the smell of it. I don't like the taste of it. But when you get that rich, rich coffee smell, it takes me back to a kid in Canterbury with my grandmother. Somehow the scent of the things that you smell will kick memories back into the forefront of your mind better probably than any other sense going. So there's that. And then say touch we've mentioned, but it is, take your shoes and socks off, get them off, walk on your feet. It's amazing how much you can actually walk on your feet and it won't hurt, it won't kill you. Just avoid holly leaves, they're pretty horrible.
Yeah.
And sometimes the beach is difficult, but paving is generally warm, and grass is quite often warm. And there's a natural connection with putting your feet on the ground. Energy flows and all the rest of it. I've got my head half around chakras. I'm still very much of the, I absolutely believe it. I know it's real. Maybe it's just the fact that chakras is a word that is hard.
Yeah.
It's not an easy word. But it's in there, it's part of it, and that energy sure as hell flows. There's no two ways about it. But getting out there, and then, of course, taste. Now, unless it's blackberries, I generally don't get people tasting stuff on the walk. I'm not the most amazing forager out there, and I don't want anyone dying on my walk.
That would not be good.
No, the publicity would be dire. I know they say any publicity is good, but yeah, come on one of my walks. Somebody died last time. I can imagine that going down really well. So
no, it wouldn't be a good idea.
No, so what we do is we get people, we get a really, it's the most amazing packed lunch you will ever eat. When we call it a deluxe packed lunch, it is deluxe. It is absolutely, I don't really like salad much, but I eat every single thing that's in this packed lunch because it's gorgeous. It's all natural, locally sourced, locally produced, but it makes a point. And you think about it, right? If we hadn't got a good sense of taste, we might never have got out of the trees. We might never have started talking to each other. We might never have started building houses. Maybe we should stop talking. But the whole of the world functions on that conversation because, face it, when we want to get to know somebody, whether that's socially, whether that's romantically, whether it's business, very, very quickly it comes to let's have a meal together. You go and breakfast networking. It's over breakfast. Lunch networking, it's over lunch. I still get in trouble going network. What are you eating? It's a breakfast networking meeting. I'm having breakfast. Damn it. I got told off by one networking group. Loony. Why did you tell someone off for having breakfast in a breakfast meeting? Why are you going to call it breakfast meeting if you can't have breakfast?
Exactly.
It is. So, but it is, the sense of taste is huge. When you wrap that up with a decent scent of whatever smell the food's got, face it, how many times do the places that want you to come in and eat food make damn sure that their sense, that the smells of their food is getting out around their location as much as possible? And how many times have you watched Hovey's adverts on the telly and thought, oh, God, I can smell the bread. I know it's not smelly vision, but your brain does the trick anyway.
Yeah.
I've got to have some Hovey's. I've got to have. God, you remember that kid walking up the hill when I were a lad?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's all a huge part of it. But the thing is, we go through these activities. I'm like running Corbett here. I'm getting back to task, or Billy Connolly. Back to task. At the end of the day, we have we call the 10-minute challenge. Yeah. 10-minute challenge, which is effectively 10 minutes sitting in the countryside with your smartphone turned off. Now, depending on the audience, you might call it meditation, but we call it 10 minutes. Now, in the morning, when you're telling people what they're going to do, you can see them go, I'm not going to survive. Oh, God. Fear. How much fear is there in this world? Well, yeah. But you know what? When we do that at the end, and we say to people, you give them the sheets, what did you enjoy? What can we improve? And what didn't you like? And what did, and all the rest of that. And almost to a T, people will go, that 10-minute challenge was amazing. Really? It is. I'd like it to be a kind of like 10 hours.
Yeah.
Challenge. But, one thing at a time. Didn't build Rome in a day.
No, exactly.
But it is. And it's just giving people the chance in a safe environment to get out and just turn off. Because I firmly believe that the greatest gift we can give ourselves is a little bit of inner peace.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything that is more important. And if you think about it, we get so much thrown at us. You need to buy this. Your life is not complete unless you've bought this. And when you've bought it, you need to upgrade it at least every year, if not 2 years, because your life won't be complete if you don't. And all of the stuff that is thrown at us is about all the things that we don't actually need at all, most of it. And if you think about it, how many things the things that you buy do you buy because you believe your life will be better if you got it? Oh. And how many of them actually do that thing? There's not many. If we only bought the things that we need to buy, we'd all be an awful lot better off.
Yeah.
So
totally.
It is, so if you can take a lot of that away, and again, think about it. The only reason we need all of this stuff is because we've got overblown egos, because that's the way we've been brought up all the way through our education system. Now, I'm not going to get on an education system because I could be here forever. Yeah. But that's the way we're brought up. We're brought up to want more, bigger house. House is not an asset, it's a liability, because you've got to pay money all the time to have it. It doesn't make you money, it costs you money. However you want to look at it, until it's yours, it costs you money. So we get away from all those things. Give ourselves stop watching the news.
Yeah.
Stop watching the news, especially over the last year, because it's all been fear-based stuff. Now, I know that you do need to know stuff, and they do tell you that ignorance is no excuse. But do you know what? If it's that important, generally somebody will tell you. All right, this was a good one. I was in town. It was a month, 6 weeks ago. We were down there in pirate kit, looking to engage some volunteers to come and help us do a decoration project in the landmark centre in town. And this fella came up to me, and he starts yapping away about politicians, and I don't really know what he's on about. And I said to him, well, do you know what? I can't actually see that any of them are any good, because all they ever seem to do is slag each other off. It doesn't matter what anyone else does, they disagree with it. And I mean, even through after COVID, as far as I can see, they still weren't agreeing about anything. No. We're in a national pandemic and they still can't agree. So I said to him, what's the point? What's the point? They all do what they do. They're all looking to promote their own business interests one way or the other. And half of their political decisions are based on boosting their business. Now, I know that's a generalization, and I'm sure there are politicians out there who really do care and really do want to make a difference. I'm not sure which ones they are. But anyway, so you've got all that. Anyway, and he starts yapping on about Matt Cameron. Now, at that point in time, I'm like, who's Matt Cameron?
Yeah, I'm thinking, who's Matt Cameron?
And he says, well, he's the bloke with the NHS and all that scandal. Is he? He says, you don't know who Matt Cameron? I said, I've got no idea who Matt Cameron is. Oh, it might not be Matt Cameron, but he was the NHS bloke who apparently had an affair and did something and got disgraced and all the rest of it. And in the end, this bloke, he walked away in a huff, thinking I'd completely utterly wound him up. Now, I might have wound him up, but only because I hadn't got a clue what he was on about. Because, do you know what? Does it matter?
Yeah.
So it's about, but again, if you take that a step further, right? If you look outside, and this is going back to that connection thing and meaningful human contact thing and all the rest of it, if you actually look around at every single thing that you see, and especially if you're in the woods, and trees do it better than anything else. Trees fall over. Yeah, they sometimes fall over because they've been blown over. They sometimes fall over because they're not brilliantly well. They sometimes fall over because we pushed them over or for various different reasons. And there's one of the walks we do from the Lost Church of Dode, which is kind of a bit off Gravesend area. There's this amazing tree. It's a silver birch, and it's fallen over. Yeah. And when you look at it, it looks like a normal tree. But when you actually get close to it, it's not. The trunk is actually horizontal, lying along the ground. And what you think is the trunk is a branch that's going straight up from the trunk, right? Now, as long as that tree has got some roots in the ground somewhere, okay, it wants to live.
Yeah.
It absolutely wants to live. That's all it's concerned about, is staying alive and doing what it was put on this earth in its physical form at that time to do. So therefore, okay, the trunks fell over, but you know what? I'm going to put a new one up. And it does exactly that. And it's not till you look at it. Now, if you actually look at a tree trunk and realize how small its root ball actually is, most of them, it's amazing that any of them ever stay up at all when you consider the height ratio to that root ball. But they do. Now, there's two things there. Firstly, they're how do they stay up? They're flexible. When the wind blows, they bend, and when it stops, it comes back up again, because everything will pass. You know, there is nothing on this earth that can keep going intensively for the entire time. Even I will have to stop in about 10 minutes time because Ray will shut me up. But
5 actually.
Wind, 5, right. But wind cannot keep going. And the trees know this, so therefore they're flexible and they stand up. There's a valuable lesson right there. Take it, deal with it, let it blow through, because it will go. But the other one is, there's only one species on this planet that ever considers ending its own life. Now, how bonkers is that? Absolutely bonkers, because it goes back to cycles. However bad it is now, it ain't going to stay that way. It will move. However good it is just right now, it won't stay that way either, mind, because it keeps moving. Wherever you are now should not ever be your end point. So that's all that. The other thing, right, before we get back into the view, I said at the beginning, the view over the wall. This is the view over the wall. This is the paperback version of the view over the wall. Okay. Now, I know there's no wall on the cover, but that doesn't matter because it's a metaphorical wall. But the thing I like, the book's Marmite, right? The book is definitely Marmite, because those people who get it will get it, and those people who don't will go, what a lot of hippie, trippy, nabby, bubby, woo, woo, tosh, right? But hopefully I've written it a bit straight on. Now, what I say to those people, because, you know, in this kind of part of the world, if you can't measure it, how long is it? How big is it? How long does it take? What if I can't touch it? It doesn't exist, yeah? Yeah, I remember one of my family members, which kind of gave me the final inch to write the thing. No, when you die, it's all over, mate. Really? But we're energy. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, right? Anyway, so I say to them, okay, what makes you think? What makes your heart tick? What makes your brain work? What makes your body do what it does? Because you can't measure that. You can't touch it. You can't do anything with it. And if you think about it, right, you take a human body and you split it up into all its component parts, yeah, and spread them out across a big football field, yeah. Mm. They're all still, all those separate parts doing what they do, and you put them all back together again, it won't work. Because whatever that strange thing is, it's gone. Yeah. It's gone back where it came from. Now, I mean, that's a whole other question. And, you know, I mean, one of the ones that I'm kind of like chewing over now, and I mean, I'm not quite convinced yet, but, you know, is that thing where even is mind and soul the same thing? Because, and is it the mind that thinks, or is it the soul that thinks? And is the soul part of the umbrella? And does the umbrella think? Does it smile? And it's all of those kind of like, I think, yeah, to finish off with, maybe, I think we spend far too much time thinking about the journey between birth and death, and maybe we should spend a bit more time thinking about the journey between death and birth.
I totally agree with that one. Absolutely. And that ties on nicely to, as you know, I normally, I do guided meditations and I read angel oracle cards. And each week I do on my show like to ask my guest whether they would like me to do a mini guided meditation or pull an oracle card for themselves and those who are watching. So Simon, what would you like me to do?
Oh, I'd like a card.
I've got them in my hands as we speak.
I'm still watching my name.
So, as you know, when I do the cards, I do the cards for what you need to know for your highest good at this moment in time. So, although I work with past life stuff, when we go into the past, we heal the past so that we can be fully present. And when I work with the future, yes, we go into the future, but when we know about our future, then we actually stay in our present. So, everything I do is for the present. So, what does Simon and everyone who's watching this live or on the replay need to know for their highest good at this moment in time? What does Simon and everyone who's watching this live on the replay? Okay, I think we go with that one. And in a way, as always, it ties in quite nicely with our conversation. Joy and delight. Open your heart to joy.
Absolutely.
How absolutely perfect is that card to come out? So it's basically confirmation, Simon, with what you're doing, and with your book and with your walks and all the stuff you're doing, helping people connect with nature and bringing the garden indoors and just being out and about is, you're actually helping other people open their heart to joy as well, which is absolutely brilliant. And of course, all those that are watching this as well, open your heart to joy, enjoy life. We're only here for a certain amount of time on physical form. Enjoy it. Use your five senses, see the world, touch the world, experience the world, because that's the joy and delight of it.
Do you know, there's a lovely little trick that I remember on the business course. We went in one day and the fellow running it, he said, I want you to write the number 82 on a piece of paper. So we all write number 82 on a piece of paper. He said, write your age underneath it. So we all did that. To take your age away from 82, we all did that. Then you get a number. And he said, times that number by 365. So we all did that. And then at the end, he said, right, 82 is the calculated average lifespan of a human being these days. And that number you just got is how many days you got left. Now, however many days that is, it ain't big enough. And do you know what? He then says, how many of them do you want to spend miserable? That's a real smack.
Yeah, that is a beautiful, beautiful word. Thank you to everyone who's watched today and commented. We've had Carla who said hello, and we also had Daria as well, and some new people. Sherilyn, who is invited by Carla. Thank you for joining in, Sherilyn, and thank you, Carla, and also Cindy was invited by Carla. So thank you, Cindy, for coming along. And we had Jane as well. So thank you, Jane, for joining in the conversation. And Jane actually does live practically next to a wood in the country, and keeps bees and does other things like that. So, she can definitely talk that. And Anna, thank you, Anna. It's great to see you watching the show. And she does like walking through the woods as well. Carla says, thank you. That was great. Thank you, Carla. And Cindy says, very interesting conversation. Thank you. And she loved the card as well. Jane says, lovely. And Pamela, who is also watching, she's invited by Carla. Yes, I did see you, Pamela. Thank you so much for watching. And Carla has asked, what was the title of that book again? So that'll be the Jerry and Esther Hicks book that she was asking.
Asking it is given.
There you go. Asking it is given.
It's cool. I thought you were going to say the name of my book. I was going, it's on the screen. Look, there it goes.
Yeah, that's going across the screen now. And that. So, Simon, do you have any insights or thoughts to leave our viewers, or do you think you've said it all? Well, you probably haven't said it all.
I can't believe I've managed to yap away for the best part of an hour, almost unimpeded. I think the most important thing is to look for that peace. But also, one of the things I do, I read a book by Professor Steve Peters called Chimp Paradox. And whether or not he's right or wrong, it's pretty cool. But he basically says the chimp is in charge between 12 o'clock at night and 7 o'clock in the morning. So whenever you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and something is really bugging your mind and you can't get back to sleep, one of the simplest ways to actually get shot of that thought. Now, I can't say this because we're on a nice, friendly orientated show, but I generally offer the words F-O chimp. Right? And that's a pretty good cure for getting those thoughts to go away.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. That's one thing that I might just try when I wake up at. Well, mine's actually 3:30 in the morning.
The bladder at old age has got a lot to answer for, isn't it?
Oh, tell me about it. So, everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation and found it insightful, because I know I definitely have. So, Simon, if people want to connect with you, how do they do that, and how do they get hold of your book?
Right. You can find me on most of the major platforms. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn primarily. So type Simon Pollard in and you should find me. Failing that, type in Simple Life and you'll find the design side of the business. The book is available on Amazon, and I believe that Ray's going to put the link up shortly. Now, what you need to do is be a little careful, because the Kindle is out now and it's $3.95, and if you want to buy the Kindle, that's dead cool. Now, technically, the paperback is not actually available until the 1st of October. Now, it is, and it's on there, but it's 40 quid at the minute, which you may decide that is more than reasonable for the paperback. But on October the 1st, it will be £11.50, which is probably an awful lot better value. Incidentally, I mean, we've got a launch party at the Holiday Inn in Whitfield, which is on Facebook. I think my wife sorted it out, and I think it's under the title of a trio of authors. There's 3 of us going to be there. So you can catch up with that. The Simple Life Circle website is just currently being hauled back into relevance, having spent a couple of months in the doldrums, but our events are slowly getting put onto that. But the one that we've got coming up is a kind of a taster session. We've got a taste of 5 senses on the 30th of September with George Chittenden from the Deal History Project. And we're going to do a brief little 5 senses at 5 o'clock from the History Hub at Deal train station. And we should finish, weather permitting, by a lake at dusk. And hopefully the sun will set for us over the lake. That's just cost a donation of a £5, which hopefully will cover a biscuit so we can taste something. And George seems to think we're going to find somewhere that will sell us tea, but I'm not quite sure where it's going to be. But we'll work on it.
Yeah.
So
ask the angels, and they will provide it. And what I do is I will put all the links to everywhere you can connect Simon. So you'll just literally need to click on the link, and you'll find that. And of course, if you have reached that crossroads in your life and you need help finding the meaning of your life and getting clear on your path, then I'd love to be that guide for you. So please feel free to reach out and connect with me, and we can arrange a free 20-30-minute video call to find out more about each other and whether I think I can help you take charge of your destiny. And of course, please feel free to join my weekly newsletter and receive a free future life progression recording where I take you into a future lifetime so you can get some guidance and clarity that you can use in your current life, as well as a couple of other free gifts. So again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'd like to invite you to share this video, as I'm sure there are more women who feel lost and want to get clear on their destiny just like you, and get an idea and remembering of using their 5 senses. And of course, if you are watching this on YouTube, then please feel free to subscribe. You know, the more people subscribe, happier I am. And if you want, you can hit that bell button to be notified of when this show goes live, or when I post new guided meditations, because I do post those all the time. Jane says, thank you. Very, very interested to get with like-minded people. And Darius says, thanks, Ray and Simon, for a great show. Thank you to everyone who's watched. And I look forward to you all joining me same time, same place next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.